This is a very important update for the community of Tamarac. In the news of a brutal murder that happened right behind me in this apartment complex, the murder of Kayla Hodgson. Now, she has been identified by friends and family as Kayla Hodgson on social media, so here's a picture of her. With new details released, 28-year-old Sakiyna Thompson, age 28, from Springfield, New York, was arrested by New York police officers. She's expected to be extradited to Broward County to face one count of first-degree murder. This young woman that was tragically taken away from friends and family on July the 13th, approximately around 3 p.m. Wednesday. This was a major crime scene that erupted after the Broward County Sheriff's Department responded to this apartment unit, and they pronounced Kayla deceased. Later, understanding that she was stabbed to death, the Broward Sheriff's Office says that Sakiyna Thompson demonstrated a deprived mind without regard for human life by stabbing with a sharp object, which she intended to cause death to Kayla Hodgson. There's many details, there's much more information to be learned on why Kayla was murdered in this quiet area of Tamarac that left lots of family and friends shocked and just absolutely in disbelief.
At exactly 2:47 p.m. on July 13, 2022, a small magnetic device attached to the underside of a Range Rover sent its final GPS coordinates to a smartphone in New York. The location, Tamarac, Florida. The address, Kayla Hodgson's apartment complex. Within 3 hours, 23-year-old Kayla would be dead, her throat slashed from ear to ear, killed by a woman she had never met. A woman who had traveled over 1,000 miles, guided by nothing more than jealousy and a $50 tracking device bought on Amazon. But here's what makes this case absolutely chilling, true crime family. The killer didn't just stumble upon Kayla's address. She didn't hire a private investigator. She didn't even have to do any detective work. All it took was one small GPS tracker, hidden on her boyfriend's car while he slept, and suddenly she had everything she needed to plan a murder. I want you to think about this for a moment. How many of you have Amazon Prime? How many of you could order a GPS tracker right now and have it delivered by tomorrow? Drop your honest answer in the comments, because what I'm about to show you will make you question just how dangerous our connected world has become. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe we need to understand how technology can be weaponized by obsession, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now. Because this case exposes vulnerabilities that could affect any one of us. To understand the magnitude of what was lost that day in Tamarac, you need to know who Kayla Hodgson really was. This wasn't just another headline. This wasn't just another statistic. This was a 23-year-old woman who embodied everything beautiful about chasing your dreams. Born and raised in South Florida, Kayla was described by everyone who knew her as the life of the party. But that phrase doesn't capture the depth of who she was. By day, she worked as a flight attendant, crisscrossing the country, collecting stories and experiences that filled her vibrant Instagram feed. Her smile could light up the narrow aisle of a Boeing 737, and passengers often commented on her warmth and professionalism. But it was her night job that truly showcased her personality. Kayla worked as a bartender at private events throughout South Florida. Not just any bartender, she was known as everyone's hype woman. She had this incredible ability to read the room, to know exactly what someone needed to hear to turn their night around. Whether it was a birthday celebration, a corporate event, or a wedding reception, Kayla brought energy that was absolutely infectious. Her friends described her as everyone's personal cheerleader. If you were having a bad day, you called Kayla. If you needed someone to celebrate your victories, you called Kayla. If you needed someone to remind you of your worth, you definitely called Kayla. Behind that vibrant social media presence was a young entrepreneur with serious business acumen. Kayla had been saving for over 2 years to open her own cocktail lounge. This wasn't just a fantasy, she had business plans, location scouting notes, and a vision board that covered an entire wall of her apartment. She knew exactly what kind of atmosphere she wanted to create, down to the playlist that would set the mood. Kayla had recently moved into a new apartment in Tamarac, Florida. For those unfamiliar, Tamarac sits between the wild Everglades and the bustling beaches of Fort Lauderdale. It's the kind of place where residents know their neighbors, where morning jogs happen on tree-lined streets, where people genuinely feel safe enough to leave their doors unlocked. Her new apartment represented everything she was working toward. Independence, success, a fresh start in a community where she could build the life she'd been dreaming about. The walls were decorated with vision boards, flight attendant wings, and photos with friends from all over the country. But what Kayla didn't know was that someone was already watching her movements. Someone was tracking her visitors. Someone had decided that her life was an obstacle that needed to be removed. And that someone was closer to her world than anyone could have imagined. Now let me introduce you to the woman who would destroy all of Kayla's dreams. While police in Florida were living their normal lives, completely unaware of the danger building, 28-year-old Sakiyna Thompson continued her daily routine in New York City. On the surface, Sakiyna seemed like any other young professional. She had built a reputation as a skilled nail technician with a growing clientele throughout Queens and Brooklyn. Her Instagram showcased intricate nail designs that attracted customers from across the city, detailed artwork that required steady hands and artistic vision. But there was another side to Sakiyna that her professional profile didn't reveal. Those who knew her described a woman with intense emotions and fierce loyalty, especially when it came to her boyfriend, Terry. She was all about him, a former friend would later tell investigators. Everything revolved around Terry. Their relationship was her whole identity. Sakiyna's social media told a more complex story. Between nail art demonstrations and couple photos were videos that revealed a different personality entirely. In several TikToks, she boasted about her willingness to fight anyone who crossed her. If you come for what's mine, I'll throw hands. Period. I don't play about what belongs to me. Most followers treated these as entertaining exaggerations, the kind of content that drives engagement on social platforms. No one recognized them as warning signs. No one understood that behind the perfectly manicured nails and professional nail art was someone capable of calculating, methodical violence. At the core of this unfolding nightmare was a man named Terry. In his early 30s, Terry worked in real estate and was known for what friends diplomatically called a carefree lifestyle. Translation: he was juggling multiple relationships, and everyone knew it except the women involved. One of those relationships was with Sakiyna Thompson. Their dynamic was complicated, marked by fiery arguments, passionate reconciliations, and a level of surveillance that would make the NSA uncomfortable. Sakiyna demanded photographic proof of Terry's whereabouts when he was late. She monitored his social media activity with forensic precision. She had passwords to accounts he didn't even know she knew about. But here's what makes their story so tragically common: everyone around them could see the red flags except the people living it. Friends described their relationship as intense and dramatic, but nobody used the word that actually applied: dangerous. Memorial Day weekend, 2022. Miami's nightlife was in full swing, and Terry convinced Sakiyna to join him for a party weekend. It should have been a celebration: sun, music, expensive drinks, and that electric energy that makes Miami legendary. It was there, amidst the flashing lights and pounding bass, that their paths crossed with Kayla Hodgson. The meeting was completely innocent, the kind of casual interaction that happens in clubs every weekend across America. Terry and Kayla struck up a conversation. Maybe they exchanged numbers. Maybe they connected on Instagram. To Terry, it was probably just another night, another connection. To Sakiyna, watching from across the crowded club, it was a declaration of war. Have you ever felt that moment of pure jealousy? That split second where rational thought disappears and something primitive takes over? Tell me about it in the comments. Because what happened next shows how quickly normal human emotions can transform into something deadly. What began as casual flirting evolved into regular communication. Phone records would later show Terry and Kayla exchanged hundreds of texts over the next 6 weeks. Terry, whose real estate business required travel, began making frequent trips to Florida. He told Sakiyna these were business meetings. Hotel receipts would prove he was staying in Fort Lauderdale, just minutes from Kayla's apartment. By late June, Sakiyna's suspicions had evolved from nagging doubt to consuming obsession. Friends reported she became withdrawn, constantly checking her phone, asking strange questions about tracking apps and GPS devices. Her nail clients began complaining that she seemed distracted, that her usually perfect work was becoming sloppy. On June 30, 2022, Sakiyna made a purchase that would change everything. She ordered a GPS tracker with overnight delivery. The device was small, magnetic, and specifically designed to be hidden on vehicles. Cost, $49.99. The price of premeditated murder had never been so affordable. Here's what should terrify everyone watching this video. The GPS tracker Sakiyna purchased is available on Amazon right now. No background check required. No license needed. No questions asked. You can literally order one while I'm talking and have it delivered by tomorrow morning. The device connects to your smartphone through a simple app. Real-time location tracking. Movement alerts. Historical data showing everywhere the vehicle has been. It's marketed for parents wanting to track teenage drivers or businesses monitoring company vehicles. But as this case proves, the line between protection and predation is thinner than we'd like to admit. 3 days after placing her order, Sakiyna attached the device to the underside of Terry's Range Rover while he slept. For a week, she watched the digital dot move across her phone screen. Business meetings. Gas stations. Restaurants. A gym. Normal patterns of someone living their life. Then, on July 12, everything changed. Terry's car remained stationary at an apartment complex in Tamarac for over 3 hours. The address matched Kayla's building exactly. The small device relayed its cold, hard data. Sakiyna now had concrete proof that Terry was seeing Kayla. More chillingly, she now knew Kayla's exact address. What would you do if you discovered irrefutable proof that your partner was cheating? Would you confront them? Would you pack your bags and leave? Would you screenshot the evidence and plan your exit strategy? For Sakiyna Thompson, the choice was clear. Within hours of this discovery, she booked a one-way flight from LaGuardia to Fort Lauderdale. Not round trip. One way. Because she wasn't planning to come back the same person who left. July 13, 2022. The GPS tracker showed Terry's car parked at Kayla's complex again. This time, Sakiyna wasn't just watching from 1,000 miles away. She was there, walking through the same parking lot, breathing the same Florida air, planning murder while families grilled burgers and children played in the pool. How she gained entry to Kayla's apartment remains a chilling detail that investigators are still piecing together. Security footage shows Sakiyna following another resident through the main entrance, a common technique called tailgating that most of us have done without thinking. She then made her way to the second floor, to apartment 424, where Kayla was expecting Terry to arrive for what they had planned as a romantic afternoon. When Kayla opened her door, she was face to face with her boyfriend's girlfriend. A woman she had never met. A woman who had traveled over 1,000 miles specifically to end her life. What happened in those next few minutes defies comprehension. The medical examiner's report describes multiple defensive wounds on Kayla's hands and arms, evidence that she fought desperately for her life. But Sakiyna had come prepared. The attack was swift, brutal, and calculated. A deep slash across Kayla's throat, from ear to ear, completed the assault. After killing Kayla, Sakiyna's behavior becomes even more disturbing. She didn't panic. She didn't flee immediately. Instead, she calmly left the apartment, disposed of the weapon somewhere investigators have never found, and met Terry at the airport. Here's the most chilling part, Terry had no idea what had just happened. As far as he knew, Sakiyna had surprised him with a romantic trip to Florida. They boarded a red-eye flight back to New York that same evening, leaving behind a scene of unspeakable horror and a community about to be forever changed. Later that afternoon, when Kayla failed to show up for her bartending shift, her manager called for a welfare check. Officers arrived to find her door unlocked and her body in the living room. The 911 call that followed would haunt everyone who heard it. The first 48 hours of any murder investigation are critical. For Kayla's case, those hours passed with mounting frustration. Detectives found no signs of forced entry. Nothing appeared stolen. Kayla's wallet, jewelry, and electronics remained untouched. But what investigators didn't realize was that the killer had already fled the state, leaving behind digital breadcrumbs that would eventually lead right to her door. The breakthrough came when detectives began analyzing Kayla's phone records and social media activity. A pattern emerged. Consistent communication with someone named Terry. When investigators pulled Terry's records, they found something unexpected, a series of increasingly hostile texts from Sakiyna on the night of the murder. Texts that revealed not just jealousy, but detailed knowledge of Terry's whereabouts. The final piece of the puzzle clicked when detectives discovered Sakiyna's last-minute flight booking. One-way ticket. Arrived hours before the murder. Departed immediately after. The timeline was perfect, too perfect to be coincidental. On August 3, 2022, Sakiyna Thompson was arrested at her Queens apartment by NYPD detectives working with Florida authorities. The arrest was swift, but what officers found during their search was damning. The GPS tracking app was still installed on her phone, still showing Terry's real-time location. A receipt for the tracking device, purchased with her credit card. A deleted note with Kayla's address written in her handwriting. And most conclusively, traces of blood found in her bathroom trash that would later match Kayla's DNA. Sakiyna was extradited to Florida and charged with first-degree murder, premeditated, calculated, and executed with what prosecutors called chilling precision. The judge denied bail, citing flight risk and the severity of the crime. But here's where this case takes another shocking turn. While sitting in jail awaiting trial, Sakiyna discovered she was pregnant with Terry's child. 8 weeks pregnant, which means she had committed the murder while carrying his baby. From her jail cell, she wrote a letter directly to the judge, a plea for mercy that reveals the depth of her delusion. To your Honorable Judge Casey, I'm writing this letter to you in hopes of finding mercy from the court to allow me to give birth outside of jail while also fighting my case. Please have sympathy for me being that I am a first-time mother and have no priors, never been in trouble before. The audacity of this request is breathtaking. A woman accused of slashing another woman's throat was asking for sympathy because she was pregnant. The same pregnancy that occurred while she was planning and executing a murder. What do you think about this request? Was this a desperate mother-to-be, or a manipulative killer trying to use her pregnancy as leverage? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this case raises serious questions about how we balance justice with circumstances. The judge's response was unequivocal. Sakiyna's request for bond was denied. The court found her alleged actions ruthless, callous, and extreme. Her plea for mercy could not erase the horrific nature of what she was accused of. Sakiyna gave birth to a son while incarcerated. The child was immediately placed in the care of Terry's parents, adding another layer of tragedy to this already devastating case. As of 2024, Sakiyna remains in custody, awaiting trial. Terry, who was never charged in connection with the murder, has remained largely silent. In his only public statement, he expressed profound regret for the choices that led to this tragedy, while denying any knowledge of Sakiyna's plans. This case represents something far more dangerous than a simple crime of passion. It shows how easily accessible technology can be weaponized by obsession. A $50 GPS tracker, available to anyone with an Amazon account, became the tool that enabled murder. Think about the implications. How many people in toxic relationships have access to this same technology? How many jealous partners are tracking their significant others right now? How many future crimes could be prevented if we understood the warning signs? Let me be clear about the red flags that everyone around Sakiyna and Terry ignored. Excessive monitoring of a partner's activities. Demands for photographic proof of whereabouts. Social media posts glorifying violence or defending what's mine. Escalating jealousy over normal social interactions. Tracking apps or devices used without consent. If you recognize these behaviors in your relationship or someone you know, please reach out for help. Resources are available 24/7, and early intervention can prevent tragedy. But let's not forget why we're really here. Kayla Hodgson was 23 years old. She had dreams of opening her own business. She brought joy to everyone around her. She was building a life filled with purpose and possibility. Her friends and family remember her bright spirit, her infectious laughter, her ability to make anyone feel special. A memorial scholarship has been established in her name to help other young women pursue their entrepreneurial dreams. 1 month after her murder, hundreds gathered at a beachside memorial service. Friends and family released purple balloons, Kayla's favorite color, into the clear Florida sky. Her mother clutched a framed photo, her grief beyond words. This case has sparked conversations about digital privacy, stalking laws, and the ease with which anyone can purchase surveillance technology. Several states are now considering legislation requiring warrants for GPS tracking devices, though enforcement remains challenging. The apartment complex where Kayla lived has since installed additional security measures, including better lighting and enhanced camera coverage. But as residents know, no security system can protect against someone who has your exact address and is determined to cause harm. As I researched this case, I kept coming back to one chilling reality: how preventable this tragedy was. If Terry had been honest about his relationships. If friends had recognized Sakiyna's behavior as dangerous rather than just dramatic. If GPS tracking devices required some form of verification or accountability. But most importantly, if we as a society better understood how quickly normal emotions like jealousy can escalate into deadly obsession when combined with readily available technology. What are your thoughts on this case? Should GPS tracking devices be regulated more strictly? Have you ever felt like someone was monitoring your movements? Share your experiences in the comments. Your story might help someone else recognize dangerous patterns. If this deep dive has held your attention, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to understand these warning signs. And subscribe to our channel for more cases that explore the complex intersection of technology, psychology, and crime. Kayla Hodgson's life was cut short by jealousy, obsession, and a piece of technology that cost less than a dinner for two. But her story continues to impact others, serving as a powerful reminder that in our connected world, the distance between love and murder might be nothing more than a GPS coordinate. Thank you for being part of this community where we seek truth, demand justice, and support survivors. Until next time, stay safe out there, true crime family. And remember, trust your instincts, protect your privacy, and never underestimate the power of a $50 device in the wrong hands. What case should I cover next? Drop your suggestions below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss when justice finally comes to light.